Okay. Hello, everyone. I would like to give a very warm welcome to the webinar today. I really appreciate your time. I know everybody is busy, so thank you all for joining us, especially those who tried to join us last week. Thank you to Irene and IT support. We have ironed out the issues we were experiencing. That being said, if you're having problems, pop a wee question in the Q&A box and we'll try and sort it out. So today we have two brilliant speakers who are going to talk about their community energy groups and the projects they have carried out. I want to encourage everyone to ask questions. Feel free to post them in the chat function. Tell us who you are, where you're from, which speaker your query is aimed at, and we'll do our best to try and address each one after the presentations. So just some housekeeping before we begin. Please make sure your microphone is on mute during the webinar. We will be recording the session for anyone who could not attend today. And if there are any questions that we don't get around to, we will try and get them answered and send the responses via email to all attendees. All right, great stuff. Thanks again for joining us. Let's get started. So I'm going to begin today by explaining what the ECCO project is all about. I am currently working with the ECCO team in Cork Institute of Technology with Dr. Martin Hill, Dr. Jerry Kelly, and our PhD student, Chi Tang. The ECCO project is focused on developing energy community cooperatives. We have partners in the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, France, and the UK. Across our partners, there are 7 beacon sites, which are examples of fully fledged community energy projects representing vibrant energy communities that use a range of renewable technologies. So the reason we're aiming to develop energy community cooperatives is to encourage citizen involvement in the energy transition. Here in Ireland, we have sustainable energy communities, or SECs, which provide a basis for community energy projects. And on top of that, recently we have seen new policy released which promotes community-owned renewable energy in the Renewable Energy Support Scheme, or RES. So ECCO wants to provide support for energy communities to assist with planning and long-term goals. A lot of what we do is based around knowledge and experience sharing and from existing projects to emerging groups. And this is done through workshops and planning expert visits, where we will invite a member of our partner sites for a visit to a local project to share their expertise. We're also working to develop support tools, one of which is the greenhouse gas calculator, and this is freely available online. I can share the link in the chat space for everyone to try out. It is an online tool that will give an estimate of the CO2 sequestered from various forms of renewable energy, and it's useful for projects to understand the impact they will be having on the nation's greenhouse gas emissions. Another tool we're working on is the one-stop shop, which we're calling LinkedIn for Community Energy, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a wee minute. So currently, we're working on reaching out to SECs and trying to get an understanding of what barriers community energy projects are currently facing. By identifying common issues, solutions can be developed, and we're using this knowledge to develop supports for groups. And we have taken on some wonderful summer interns who are helping us develop our one-stop shop. So the one-stop shop will quite literally be a one-stop shop for all things community energy. We want to provide all necessary resources for community energy projects to get started. There will be a forum section that will offer advice and guidance from other groups and experienced members, as well as tools to assist groups understand what stage of development their project is at. We want to ease collaboration between community energy groups and help sustain the area in the long term. So I'll be able to show you a very sneak peek preview of what we have developed so far. So you can see we have a community space, a forum space. Our community space is inspired by social media for groups to communicate within, and our professional tools are designed to support projects at any stage of development. The page also has some further information about the ECCO project. And if we move to the resources page here, we can see it includes useful documentation and has further information about other Interreg projects that ECCO is involved with. And we also have included links to useful associations that may be helpful for community projects here in Ireland. So our one-stop shop is currently under development. We are hoping to have it ready for testing in the coming weeks. If you or your community energy group would be interested in testing it, please let us know. We would love to have some guinea pigs on board. So overall, the ECCO project wants to support community energy projects in Ireland and across our partner countries. We want to prove that community energy is beneficial by showing the statistics and impact on her greenhouse gas emissions. And lastly, we want to influence policy to make space for these groups to grow. We're working to bring together community energy representatives and form an alliance to influence Irish policy and streamline the energy community process. So that's all from me for now. I'm going to let our guest speakers take the reins. And first off, I would like to introduce Edgar Wolf. Edgar is part of the Énergies, citoyennes and Pays de Vilaine, founded in 2003, and this association helped to form the first citizen-owned wind energy project in France, located in Brittany near the city of Redon. To date, EPV have built 13 wind turbines across 3 locations with an overall capacity of 26 megawatts. Some phenomenal work, so I'll hand over to you, Edgar. 2 seconds, guys. We're just technical difficulties.
Yeah, that's better like that. Hi.
You're better. We can hear you now. Perfect. Okay, yeah. Edgar, I'll let you work away now.
I forgot the microphone.
You're okay.
Yeah, the first slide, just to remind you that we are a member of the ECCO project, the Interreg project ECCO, Annie just described. Go on to the second slide, please. I'm a member, volunteer member and member of the board of EPV, which is Énergies, citoyennes en Pays de Vilaine, association created in 2003 by some 20 citizens of our region around Redon, the southern part of Brittany. Today, the EPV group, as we call it, is is composed by certain structures, units. We distinguish in 3 kinds of units. We have what is in red, ISW, FEA, TLV, and BGW are the projects, the wind farms that are producing. The first one started in 2015, and the others followed little by little. They are producing today. We have SWD and EPV on the left side of this presentation. EPV, of course, our association with with a staff of 9 people today. And SWD, a development engineering company with 5 people working on the development of new projects and on the operation phase of the projects that are already producing. So they can follow the local operation of each unit and do some technical work on the field if it's necessary, and the rest will be done by the technical staff of the producers, of the manufacturers of the wind turbines. Business development, that means 3 projects under development. ECP, which is our beacon for the ECCO project, Étoile Solaire solar project started 1.5 years ago, and SGC, Landiset, which is the second wind farm that we are developing. We think that both ECP and SGC will be able to start production in about 4 years. Go on, please. Annie mentioned already some figures, so I'll just add some key figures that may be interesting to know what we are really doing. 13 wind turbines that produce the electricity for about 20,000 residents in the region. Of course, the electricity produced is sold to the general grid. There is no other possibility in France. We started selling the electricity to EDF, which is the national operator, but the first wind farm changed last year and is now selling the electricity to the green operator, 100% green operator, which is called Énergies Co-op. The second wind farm is preparing the same change from EDF to Énergies, which to all of us seems more ethically and politically more coherent with our philosophy and the general politics strategy. Yeah, 35 operative volunteers. That means 35 people that are regularly participating in working groups, 16 employees on the whole, about 100 members of the association, and 240 partner citizens. Partner citizens are people who from time to time participate in workshops or meetings about energy savings schemes or any other projects about renewable energy. Go on to the next slide, please. Just a rough look at the timeline. We started the association in 2003. We created Citawat, which is a financing company. We created this company in 2007 in order to collect the first financial means to finance the development of the first wind farm. The first wind farm was ready in 2014. During the development phase, we created Citawat Development, our engineering company, with an engineering staff able to accompany the development of new projects. Ferme Éolienne d'Avessac was the third wind turbine that started, wind farm that started in 2017. Let's go on. How do we get the people engaged? Of course, through the financial participation. Then we mobilize the network of people who are aware of environmental issues, most of the time people of our region, maybe about 50 to 100 kilometers around our territory. The reasons for getting engaged for most of the people are, of course, the fact that the benefits remain in the community. We create local jobs. We reinforce the local economy. Of course, we pay local taxes like any other company. And of course, many of the people who participated in the projects that are already operating are activists, people who were environmentally aware of and had have the desire to participate in citizen projects. There's one important impact on project development I would like to mention is the fact that citizen participation increases the acceptance of projects. We can maybe go into details later on, but the fact that the people are known and the people who carry the project are known by the population, the local population, that helps a lot to explain, to show the advantages of citizen projects. Go on. And the financial participation. Of course, people who put money in a project, they buy what we call shares. We have an important distinction between the investment during the risk phase and the development phase. The risk phase is the time we need to have all the technical and environmental studies done, and to be sure to get the construction permit. When we have the construction permit, we start what we call the development phase. And this, of course, is a different phase for people who participate financially. From that moment on, the risk is very, very low, because normally, if we have the permit, the construction permit, we are sure that we can go until the construction and to operation and to production. There is a minimum shareholder level of 100 euros, but we recommend at least a minimum of 500, because the return is about 3 or 4%. So 3% of 100 euros is too little to be satisfied. I mean, that's why we recommend at least 500. The average participation, or the average financial participation of the people in the region, is about 1,500 euros. So there are many people who put in some more, and some people who put in less. There is a maximum individual shareholder level, which is defined by each group that carries the project, between 10,000 and 40,000 euros, because we would like to avoid too important discrepancy between low participation and high participation. Of course, as we will see later on in the governance of the projects, if one person means one voice, without taking into consideration the amount of the investment. The risk, the individual risk, is limited to the amount of the individual investment. If for some reason the project does not go on until the end of the scheduled phase of 20 or 25 years. So it's quite low risk for that kind of investment. Go on. Next slide, please. Well, the governance of the projects is a co-op type governance. One person, one vote. I mentioned it already. The governance board contains several colleges, as we call them, founding members, citizens, local authorities, and regional or national funds. There are different forms of regional and national funds we can use. Some of them were initiated thanks to our energy and our strategy. There is a blocking minority in each company that is producing. A blocking minority for founders and citizens to ensure the basic values, which are democratic, non-speculative, local commitment, energy saving schemes addressing concerns of the local population, and financed by the production units. That means four of our staff are financed by the wind farms to organize workshops and meetings, to inform the people about possibilities to reduce their consumption in energy or electricity. The management of the different companies is carried out by volunteers with some technical and administrative support from our engineering company SWD, and of course the association EPV. So far for the governance. We have other financing tools and partners. Énergies partagées investissement, is a national fund collecting citizen investments up from 100 euros. The difference is people who put money in Énergies partagées investissement will not participate directly in the governance of one of our projects. They will just give the money, and the organization, EPI, will decide where to use it. Énergies, a national fund of 10 million euros provided by Caisse de dépôt, which is a public or a state bank. Ircontec, an organization that collects money for retirements, and Crédit Coopératif, a cooperative bank in France. There are local and regional authorities that participate financially in the projects, and semi-public energy companies that put in money and technical expertise in the development of our projects. And of course, third sector companies that participate financially in some of our projects. Next slide. Okay.
Good timing. Very good timing there, Edgar.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant slides, Edgar. Thank you very much for sharing. Very interesting to see the various parts of EPV and the importance of citizen engagement. And I noticed that you mentioned how important it is to begin setting up a group by engaging people who are already aware of the environmental issues and the climate crisis, which I'm sure saves a lot of time. So our next speaker is Líosa Ní Leithirte, and she is part of the Aran Islands Co-operative, and which has been a community-owned cooperative since 2012. Sorry, just so you can see her. So the group is currently working to erect a wind turbine on the island of Inishmore, and has assisted with the installation of PV panels across all 3 islands, as well as heat pumps and battery storage, positioning themselves as leaders in the community energy sector in Ireland. So some brilliant work from the Aran Islands. Líosa, I'll hand over to you. We'll just get your slides going now.
Perfect. So I have them up on my screen, so if you can push them to live, hopefully people can see them.
Off you go.
Great. So I work with the Comharchumann Fuinnimh Oileáin Árann, which is the Aran Islands Energy Co-op that was set up here in 2012. And first, I thought I'd give you just a little bit of history about the co-op. So it was established in 2012, and basically before the Aran Islands Energy Co-op was established, there were subcommittees of the development co-ops on each of the 3 islands, and those subcommittees were set up to deal with energy matters. But at the time, back then, there was the German guy living on the biggest island here in Inishmore, and he gathered everybody at a birthday party, actually, his birthday party in the local hall. And he was very passionate about all this, and basically he picked a few people and said, okay guys, we really need to set up one whole cooperative that will deal with all these issues and tackle our goals, basically. So there was Comharchumann Fuinnimh Oileáin Árann set up. We are 100% community owned and non-profit. Membership is only open to residents, so either individuals or businesses of each of the 3 islands. So you have to have an address to become a shareholder, and it's €100 and €100 only, and that is for life. So we have a fixed set of aims and objectives. The most ambitious, I suppose, being to be self-sufficient and carbon neutral by 2022. Now, I suppose what we really want to do is to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, and we want to become a platform for Ireland and for the world, I suppose, to promote sustainability and environmental protection. So at the moment, we're taking a few steps to do that. The main ones being retrofitting old houses, the electrification of transport and heat. And of course, one of the big ones which we're working on actually just now is, we have been working on since 2012, but there's a lot happening now with what Annie mentioned earlier, the Renewable Energy Support Scheme, res auction, which is actually opening next week. So we're hoping to get an application in, but I can mention that later. And yeah, so basically for the retrofitting, we are upgrading some of the older housing stock on the island. And as of now, there's about 50% of the houses have been retrofitted through the SEAI BEC scheme. Work is still ongoing. We're hoping to do another application next year. But as you can imagine, a lot of the houses on the island are old stone houses, not very comfortable, poor insulation. I believe we were surprised to see the lack of attic insulation in houses. Actually, was one of the biggest things. And what we wanted really was to make people's lives more comfortable. And yeah, so that's it. So that work is still ongoing. And then with the electrification of heat, so I'm sure that a lot of you have heard of the air to water or the geothermal systems maybe, which is all well and good if you're building a new house, but a bit different if you're retrofitting an old house. But we have we've done some work on that. So heat more so than transport. And we've been installing, so again, to the SEAI schemes, there have been air to water heat pumps installed. And we're also part of a European project called GeoFit, which I will mention at the end as well, where we are actually retrofitting a house to put in the geothermal system there. So that involves bringing in drillers and digging a borehole here on the island. So there's a lot that we want to do here, and there's benefits. And I suppose the heat was one of our biggest uses of energy, and we had an energy master plan done, which I'll also talk about. But first of all, with the electrification of transport, EVs, electric vehicles, are ideal for the island because of the short distances. So the biggest island here is Inishmore, is only 9 miles long. So as you can imagine, range isn't as much of an issue for us as it can be for other people buying electric vehicles. So in 2011, there was an SEAI pilot scheme which brought approximately 8 cars to the island, 6 of them being on the biggest island here in Inishmore, and they were allowed to use those cars for a year, and then after 1 year they were swapped to different participants who got to use them. And I suppose that really got the ball rolling for people and showed people the benefits of electric vehicles. And there's about 13, I think possibly now 14 on the island, and that number is growing. And we are planning on doing a push soon as well, because I suppose the second-hand market had a massive impact because these cars are expensive to buy new. But the issue is that they're not as available secondhand at the moment. But we're currently doing some research on converting your own car to electric with Irish EVs, so they're helping us out with that, and hopefully that can help people as well. Now, so with our energy master plan, we discovered that ferries, no surprise there, coming to the island in the peak months, were the largest consumer of fossil fuels on the island, followed then by heating. So I'll show you now a chart in a second, but basically through the energy master plan, which was funded by the SEAI in 2008, we were able to develop this document and get a clear picture of our existing situation on the island, and that helped us to better plan for the future, as we were able to have a breakdown of sector by fuel type. So through that we discovered that 50% of the electricity that leaves the mainland to come to us is actually lost in the transport from the mainland to the islands, which in itself is very inefficient. We're also completely reliant on that cable, which is now very old. I think it's about 25 years old now, and it broke. It actually broke in 2016, which left two of the smaller islands without power for 2 weeks. And it happened in August, which was the peak tourist season, which meant bringing in a load of diesel generators at the time and relying on those. So I'll just move on. You can see there from the graph that the maritime obviously is the biggest. These are ones, and we are hoping with the ferries as well that some of them we're doing some work with hydrogen in transport, and in ferries there's some schemes out there, especially in Scotland. Some feasibility reports have been done already. So we're looking into that, as some of the ferries are reaching the end of their lifespan. So hopefully, when they need to be changed, that they can look at more renewable energy for those. So as you can see, the fossil fuel reduction here can show you, and you'll see in the diesel one for 2018, the bottom right, in 2016, sorry, when the cable broke, is the diesel went up there on the smallest island, and Inisheer, because that would be, Inishmeon wouldn't be as busy, but Inisheer would be a very, very busy island in the summer, where they have ferries coming from Doolin and Russaville every day. So that's why that went up there, because of the need for the diesel generators. And I suppose it really hit home for people as well, the benefits of renewable energy, and hopefully if we can someday be generating our own. So we're in a unique position here, as we have those figures. We can monitor it easily, as they all have to come in on the same cargo boat. So that's something that we're lucky to be able to have. One second. So energy generation. In the short term, we have been installing, so there's been a lot of PV installations on the islands, lots of local prosumers, and approximately 10% of the homes across the 3 islands have PV installed. And that's one thing that came out of it in Inisheer, where a few of them would have PV panels, and when they lost their electricity, they were actually still able to charge their phones and do a few bits using the energy from their own PV panels. So that really drove it home for them. The long term, then, we're in the very early stages of planning for a wind turbine on the Aran Islands. So there's been very positive support so far. We obviously think that to meet the growing energy demand on the 3 islands, we may need to combine wind and solar, possibly hydrogen and storage for that. And as I said earlier, the ferries would be an ideal solution for this. But we've had massive community support, which is one of the big things for us. And at the moment, with the res auction opening up next week on Tuesday, so we're hoping to do our grid application. We're hoping to apply for that, to put in for our grid offer, and hopefully get it. We don't know, but so there's place for 15 community projects. So we're doing that, and then after that we need to look at getting planning. So there were, in another lifetime, 3 small, but they were very small turbines on the middle island in Inishmeon. So the infrastructure is there, and we're looking at that as a potential site, and also some sites here on the bigger island in Inishmore. So we've yet to engage again with the council, but they've been very helpful so far in telling us what we need, and yeah, hopefully we'll see lots of exciting things happening with that in the near future. So as I said, we are working with some EU funded projects here on the island, Respond being one of them, which is actually coming to the end. It's ending this year. And for that, there are 9 houses on Inishmore only, with sensors checking their PV generation, their total consumption, and the consumption of some specific appliances. And participants are able to see on a mobile phone app how much energy they're generating and are able to manage it that way. They also receive notifications about the best time to utilize their PV panels, and then when it's sunny, to turn on to use their high usage appliances at those times. Sea Fuel is another one that is a project based on hydrogen in transport, and it's based specifically on islands. So Tenerife will be producing hydrogen and actually producing hydrogen there and using it in the trucks at the port. And we will be doing a feasibility study for the Aran Islands and the possibility of producing hydrogen for transport, again for the ferries. Geofit is the other one, the very interesting one that we are seeing. Well, we're going to hopefully see a lot of tangible benefits from. So there's one pilot site here in Inishmore. There's another one in Galway, the university, and there's some more different locations, and we are using it. They plan on basically it's an older cottage, and they're retrofitting it. So we're going to bring in drillers, drill a borehole, install a heat pump, and the possibility of underfloor heat mats in the house as well. So instead of obviously having to dig up and everything, do the pipes, this is a special system where they can actually place mats over the floor and then place if they're very, very thin, and then place a new floor on top of that. So we're coming across some issues with retrofitting an older stone house, which is good because it's also helping us come up with new and exciting ways to overcome those problems. Sorry, the last one there, the INTREG, is the Community Virtual Power Plant, CVPP, and we're sub-partners in this project with an electricity company called Community Power, which is 100% community owned, buying and selling 100% renewable energy, and preferably community energy. And that, I suppose, would be our long-term goal if we're able to get a wind turbine here on the island, that we'll be producing renewable energy and we'll be able to sell it to Community Power and ideally buy it back off them, then is how it will work. And there's a few ideas for supplying just the 3 islands that we can supply those, but for those you need a smart grid, which is a whole other project that we're just working on now. So we'll see where that takes us. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's some details there for Community Power, communitypower.ie. There, it's very easy to sign up if people want to. Their prices are actually very competitive, and again, you have the benefits that they are using 100% renewable energy, and they are helping communities. They're helping us with projects in renewable energy. And I'll just leave some of our information there if anybody does want to get in touch. And yeah, so we'll move on, I guess, to questions from Annie.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, Alicia. There were some very interesting slides. Very interesting to hear the background of the cooperative. It's amazing what can come from a birthday party. I'll just pop up something here. So there we go. That's better. Now people can see the slides instead of me. Right. So yeah, very interesting to see the origins of the cooperative, and especially interesting to see the work done and planned for the electrification of heat and transport, as these are both relevant topics across the whole of Ireland. You guys are lucky, you're small landmass, probably easier to deal with. So now we're going to answer some of the questions, so just bear with me. I'm going to read them out from the Q&A box and just direct them to our speakers. So if anybody has anything they want to talk about, work away, bring it up, we're happy to discuss it. All right, here we go. I'll just bring this up. Brilliant. Okay, so we'll just start off at the top, I suppose. So I guess this is directed to both of you guys. How many people would you recommend getting together to set up a community energy project?
Well, as far as our experience tells us, you would need some 10 or 15 people to have a core group, people who are enough motivated to go on for a couple of years during the development phase, and of course, hopefully manage the company and the wind farm when it's constructed. We are always looking for that kind of group that will be able to carry the project. This is the first thing we are looking for. And then we follow, we do the follow-up. We're looking for the territory, for the possibilities and the wind potential and so on. But what we need and what we think is crucial is a group of citizens, maybe including political representatives of the commune or of the region. Why not? But most of the majority of the group should be citizens from the local territory.
Okay, very good.
I definitely agree with Edgar there on
Yeah.
that one. I think we have about 10 between 2 full-time employees, so staff that get paid, and then the rest are voluntary, and we have a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and then about 6 directors on the board. And again, all local. We're pushing to have them because we do represent all 3 islands. We are hoping to get some from the other 2 islands onto our board as well. Currently, everyone is based here in Inishmore, but again, I think that is important, and you need people that are passionate about the project as well, and passionate about, I suppose, where you live.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Definitely. Okay, brilliant. So there's another question here. This might be for you, Edgar, because you've kind of mentioned that you have some part of EPV, or there's groups that help. Sorry, I'm just going to read the question. So, do you think developer-led projects are worth partaking in, as they front the risk at the start and share the profits when the project is commissioned, as opposed to a pure community-developed project, I suppose?
Well, according to our experience, again, the participation of a private developer is very tricky, if not problematic. We tried it once with one project, and it was very, very difficult to get it back to a local and citizen managed form solution. So we would not do it again.
Okay.
But we are quite happy to have public or some semi-public companies, energy companies, in some projects, because they really understand the citizen aspect, the citizen participation, and the reason why it's interesting to have them in the project. And that's quite interesting and quite positive to work with that kind of companies.
Okay, very good. Interesting, very interesting that you have experience. Okay, so Alicia, this is one for you. Do you find yourself at a disadvantage being on a small island?
Well, I guess there's 2 ways to look at that. We do and we don't, in that we're lucky being on a small island, or a small 3 islands, is that we have a very tight-knit community and strong community support for our projects, and everybody does really help each other out. And everyone does. It is great to see that, and I think it's one, especially for projects such as a wind turbine, that you need community engagement, you need community support. The way that we would be disadvantaged is the location-wise, I suppose, and transport. So we're working on finding out what size equipment we can actually get onto the island. So we're at a major disadvantage with that, and I suppose everything that's coming here, it's being on the island, everything's going to cost us more. Technically, like it's more complicated with the cable. For example, like the middle island in Oileáin, the cable runs from there to the big island, and then from here out to the mainland. And we need to figure out how to actually get what size equipment, because the 3 turbines that were on the island previously were a lot smaller. So we need to figure out how to get something of that scale onto the island, and it involves cargoes and the beach and slips, everything. So a little bit tricky, but we managed to work it out. So hopefully we'll figure something out for these 2.
Very good. Yeah, nothing's ever straightforward, is it? Very good. Okay, so Edgar, I suppose actually maybe both of you have experience in this. This question is asking what sort of time frame is involved with getting a wind turbine project up and running?
Of course, it depends on the local situation, on the geographical situation, and so on. Our first project, which was the first citizen-managed and citizen-carried project in France, took more than 10 years to get the construction and to start up production. Now, with the second and the third project, it took less time. It took 5 and 6 years to do them, and that's quite quite normal, I would say, for that kind of project, because of course, when you have citizens involved in the development of the project, it takes more time than a private company, a private developer who comes with the package and then just rolls up the whole project. There may be difficulties with administrative questions or any kind of technical issues, but it's of course easier for a private developer to do the project in a shorter period. Well, maybe I go on with the next question.
Yeah.
We talked about the company, the shares and the financing scheme. Generally, we will have to bring up 20 to 25% of the whole budget for a wind farm, for a project. That means about 2 million or 2.5 million euros. Most of the financing comes from individual or groups of citizens that come together and organize in a group. This is for some legal reasons in France. It's easier to do it in that way than in an individual way. And then we have, as I said, as I explained in one of the slides, we have different funds which we can call on for participation. Énergies, partagées, investissement, the regional fund Énergies, and other regional funds that are ready to participate either in the risk phase, some of them, but most of them in the development phase. And of course, we have financial participation from semi-public energy companies as well. Semi-public energy companies that want to develop local citizen-carried projects.
Okay, brilliant. I'll just follow on to the next question below. So this is, how did you start with selling the energy created? Is the country buying and selling? Is there a country buying and selling platform? So I suppose, Edgar, this would be EPV. How did you get started actually selling your energy then?
Yes, we don't have, we just have one national grid in France. So we have to sell the electricity to feed it into this national grid. And 2 years ago, the French law changed because until 2018, only EDF, the national operator, had the right to use the subsidized in-feed tariffs. Enercop, which is the only 100% green energy or electricity provider in France, got the right 2 years ago to do the same, at the same conditions, the same in-feed tariffs. So we can now choose between selling to EDF or to Enercop. That's the two possibilities. And 2 of our 3 wind farms have already made the choice to go to Enercop with the same tariff and the same conditions as EDF before. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm just going to aim one for you, Leisha. So we've got one here. How is the turbine project going in general, and how do you get funding to do these projects?
So in general, it is going well. As Edgar was speaking about the timeline earlier, our project is really 10 years, although I only joined the Comharchumann this year, but they have been planning this for 10 years since Comharchumann was developed back in 2012 or even before then. So it does take time, but I suppose right now, all of a sudden it has exploded in a way, and a lot of things are happening, and I suppose that's due to the res auction, and that gave us a goal kind of and a timeline to go for September this year. And also we are a sustainable energy community, so we're eligible to get support from through SEAI from Plan Energy, who will provide mentorship for us. We are also, through our other project, the CBPP and Community Power, there's another partner there, Friends of the Earth, who set up a workshop for us with an expert in the area, Rory Mullen, from Mullen Grid, and that was very helpful for us. So especially for the res auction. So in general, it's going well. As I said, there's other people. Although I'm working on it now, a lot of other people did a lot of work before this. I just happened to come on this year covering maternity leave for someone, and now all this is happening. And with regards to funding, there are only I work for the Comharchumann on a part-time basis. There is a full-time project manager who's currently on her leave, and then there's someone else that works part-time doing the accounts. And it is through all these EU projects that we are participating in, such as Respond and GeoFit, that we're able to get funding, but most of it is done on a voluntary basis. So our chairperson, our vice chairperson, and all of our directors are all voluntary and have put an unlimited amount of time and effort into researching this and attending webinars and all the likes. So that's it.
Very good, very good. So I'm just going to skip down any questions that we're not answering at the minute. I'll get the speakers to maybe email answers to them, and I can send around to the rest of the attendees. So don't worry if we're skipping your question, we'll get to them eventually, I promise. So there's one here. This is directed to both. What do you think is the biggest hurdle in starting a project? An energy community project, I suppose.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Of course, yeah. So what do you think is the biggest hurdle in starting a project? So the biggest problem that you would face?
I'm trying to think.
Is there so many?
Because I wasn't really here for the start of it. I kind of jumped on the bandwagon later. So maybe Edgar would be better to answer that one.
Yeah, the biggest hurdle for the first wind farm we set up was to find a bank for the loan, because when I talked about 20-25% of equity, that's what we need to get a bank loan for the rest of the budget. And that was really difficult at the beginning, because it was the first project. And the banks in France said, well, citizens managing, what's that? Never heard of, too risky, too dangerous, no. So we started with the Belgian bank. And the second project was was a bit easier to finance through a bank loan. And for the two projects in the development, now we have good contacts with several banks, and some banks asked themselves, took the initiative to ask and come and call us, do you have any projects we might be interested in financing? So
yeah,
that was
we haven't gotten that far yet, but I assume that will also be, I hope that we get that far, that we have that hurdle to jump over, picking up the equity.
Very good. Brilliant. It's fantastic to see how far you've come in the eyes of the bank there, Edgar. That's brilliant. So we have another question here. There's two questions here actually. So did the Aran Island project have initial funding to develop its proposals given the considerable work? And then the second part of this is the main aim in the Aran Islands to sell to the grid or to be self-sustainable? interesting.
So I'll answer the second part first. So yes, our main aim is to be self-sustainable, but at the moment we can't do that unless we have a smart grid. So we can't actually keep the energy that we would generate on the 3 islands. So it will be in the short term. Well, it could end up long term now if we by the time we'll actually get generating. But our aim will be to sell to the grid and then buy back from a renewable energy provider such as community power or the likes. And that's the only way we'll be able to do it. We'll have to sell it on to the main national grid. There's no way of actually keeping it here.
Yeah.
I believe at the moment anyway. And did we have, I'm just looking at the questions, the Aran Islands have initial funding to develop its proposals given the considerable work? That answer I can't. I can try and answer it, but I can't give you an answer because I haven't been with the Corkhamon long enough, and like I said, it's been going on a long time. But I do believe that being in SEC, part of SEAI's Sustainable Energy Communities, has helped us. There has been a lot of mentorship there and guidance given. They're also through, as I said, we're sub-partners in the CVPP project, and they are very, very helpful to us as well in helping us with this project and giving us their time. And I suppose what you really need is people to commit to giving up their time to do this. Like I said, I personally am working for the Corkhamon, but most of them are volunteers, and they gave up their time just to research these projects and put these proposals together. I mean, I'm working with a colleague who's currently supposed to be on holidays this week, but with timing, he really is not. So with the amount of emails he's getting from me back and forth all week, trying to get this over the line. So basically, yeah, I can't really answer your question because I believe there was no funding per se, but it's just through all the different projects we're involved in and getting the guidance from them.
Very good. Okay, right, I've got one final question here in for both of you, and then we wrap up. So this is pretty topical. Has the pandemic affected progress in your energy projects? Sorry, Edgar, will I go or
Go ahead.
Yeah, for us, I would actually kind of say no. The work has still been going on. I actually got my job in the middle of the pandemic, so the fact that they can keep people employed throughout has been a good sign. And a lot of the work, we work with a lot of EU partners in the Netherlands, Belgium, Italy, Spain, and all our work has been done remotely. The only thing is that partner meetings and the likes that you would usually have to host or travel for, they've all been moved online. So we're lucky that we have the technology there and that it hasn't set us back too much. Obviously, tangible work such as the GeoFit project and installing the pumps and everything, all that did get pushed back a bit. But other than that, there hasn't been a huge impact on us. That's good.
Edgar, would you like to weigh in?
Luckily, the pandemic has not affected much our two projects that are in development because the technical and acoustic and environmental studies had started before, and most of these studies take 6 or 8 or 12 months according to the type of study. So they were going on during the crisis, the pandemic, and we had the meetings we needed to have during this time by video conference, of course, and I guess we did not lose much time through the pandemic, during the pandemic.
Very good. Okay, there's one sneaky last question we might deal with before we wrap up, if you don't mind. So have either group worked with smart meter data to see how demand management could increase self-sufficiency and consumer willingness to participate in demand management? That's a mouthful.
We haven't that I know of with smart meter data. No, we're involved in a project that's going to be looking at that and installing kind of smart meters in homes. And again, the aim will be to develop a smart grid for the islands, but no, we haven't yet worked with anything like that.
Brilliant. Edgar, any PPE to weigh in?
No, we haven't worked with that kind of smart meters as well. No.
Okay. Brilliant. Right, so we'll leave it there. I think so. Final remarks. Thanks again to our wonderful speakers. Sorry, there we go. Thanks again to our wonderful speakers and everybody who's taken the time out to attend the webinar today. I hope it has been useful and has inspired many new community energy projects. I look forward to hearing all about them. If you have any further questions about anything we talked about today, or would like to take part in testing our one-stop shop that I mentioned earlier, please feel free to email the ECCO team in CIT. The email is ecoproject@cit.ie. So thank you to Irene and IT support for helping us get this webinar going a bit more successfully, and Dean, our intern, working in the background, and our guest speakers Edgar and Leisha and our wonderful audience for all taking part. So thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Brilliant.
Thanks. Bye.